one problem that people have is that we talk about the Torah a lot, and we seem to put it on a pedestal, and we talk about it more than the other books of the Bible. And when we go through scripture every year, it's the Torah that we're going through every year. We don't go through Isaiah every year. We go through the Torah every year. And so, people get the idea that maybe we think that all scripture is inspired by God, but maybe we think the Torah is more inspired, or like it's better. Because when we look at other scripture, we go back to the Torah to help us understand what it all means. So what would we say to that? Is the Torah on a higher level as the rest of scripture, or is everything equally inspired, or is that not even the right question to ask?
I don't think it's the right question to ask. That's not really. It's a question of chronology, actually. Like, a later revelation doesn't supplant an earlier revelation of God. That's by inference of logic, that if God is truth and everything that he's saying is true, and he says this is true forever, then he can't later go back and say, that's not true anymore. So that's sort of a logical idea. But when you look at, so what is the Torah? The Torah comes to us through Moses. It's it's the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And the idea of the Torah is that this is God's revelation, his self-disclosure. He shows up on Mount Sinai in front of an entire nation that see him in the smoke and the fire and the lightning and the thunder, and they all hear God's voice speaking to them, which elevates every single man, woman, and child in an entire nation up to the level of a prophet that's hearing directly from God. Now, this is unusual. It's not just unusual, it's unprecedented, as in it's never happened before and it's never happened since, that God just appears and says, we interrupt this reality to bring you this message from your creator. So that's kind of what's happening at Mount Sinai. So this is a watershed moment in human history. And so it's like what comes through the Torah, what comes through that revelation at Mount Sinai, then becomes the fundamental basis of the religious revelation through the prophets and such that's going to unfold. So the prophets never come along and they say, I think Moses was wrong about X, Y, or Z. Instead, the prophets all assume that what happened at Mount Sinai, what came through Moses, is the bedrock truth. And so their revelations are going to build upon that bedrock truth. And it's no different when we get to the New Testament and the teaching of Yeshua. So it's not that we're setting the Torah above any other scripture. It's just that we're saying, really in order of, we're setting it below. We're saying this is the stuff that all other scripture is built on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. My colleague, my colleague Aaron Eby would say that all of the Bible as we have it today is essentially can be considered the Torah. Torah means teaching. It's all of God's revelation. So I think there is an equality there amongst all of the revelation that Him has given us. But Daniel's correct in the sense of an issue of historical priority and foundation that the Torah represents.